we're going to talk about one of the most important features of your blog, and that is creating an irresistible, click-worthy blog post title. Now, I know a lot of people think about clickbait, but I don't think it's clickbait if you are delivering on the content. My thing is, I always like for the title to stand out. Look at these titles. If I'm typing in how to start a blog, you see all these examples come up, and these are really top websites. How are you going to stand out? Are you going to continue to use that same blog post title and stand out? No, you're not going to stand out because the first 5 people already have how to start a blog. So what are you going to do? A quick thing that I would do is I will look at alternative questions that people are searching around this keyword. So if I go down, I see people also ask, how do bloggers get paid? How do I start a blog with no money? And how to start a blog for free. So let's look up, did anybody say how to start a blog for free? So that could be a possible alternative, or I could do a totally different blog, and I would do 2023 blog guide. Then I would do : how to start a successful blog today, or how to start your blog in 20 minutes or something like that. But I would start out with the keyword 2023 blogging guide. And then that way it could kind of have some way to stand out. And that's one of the things with blogs and creating a title is that just because that was your keyword and you had your heart set on how to start a blog, do you really want to use it? Do you really want to write all that and then use the same keyword or use the same title that everybody has used on the first page of Google? That doesn't make any sense. And most likely Google just is going to keep whoever number 1, 2, and 3 where they're at. And then the reader who comes, if everybody has the same title, they're just going to go to the first person. So how is your title going to stand out, be effective, pop out? That's what I'm going to teach you today about really figuring out that blog title, how to make it stand out amongst the crowd, and how to get someone to click on it. So first, let's talk about how to create those blog post titles. In your content strategy that we discussed earlier, blogging for your business is dependent on your keyword analysis, as we have talked about previously. By now, you've created a solid foundation of your content plan around your keywords, and now you're ready to figure out how to title your blog post. And according to Wired, a really good headline can spike your traffic by 500%. That is insane. Just one change of an article title, just tweaking it a little bit, can change your click-through rate to 500%. And I'm a witness because I change my titles all the time. If it's not working, I will go back and change it. And I do a lot of testing on my article titles. Now, something you should know, that the foundation of your blog post title comes from 9, not 4, 9 formats. There are 9 structures for a blog post, and they are listicles, how-tos, questions, where, what, and why. Then there are the mistakes, fixes, errors. Then there's the ultimate guide, keyword triggers. And then you have the increase, boost, grow. That's a blog post title. And then the verses. Those are the most common blog posts and headliners that you'll see online today. So now I'm going to go through each one to give you a quick overview of their purpose and how you can use it for your business and how we've used it here on Bramework. First, you have the listicle blog post title. This is the listicle format. You usually see them on places like BuzzFeed, and they have an excellent click-through rate. They are usually for short form blog posts, and you can see stuff on Bramework such as 11 best business practices for your blogs, or 15 steps to brand building awareness for your business. Those are just a few of the listicles. And even on my website, I might have something like the 10 best things to eat at Walt Disney World, or the best destinations to travel to in the United States. Everything on your listicle will start with a number, a superlative such as best, most amazing, incredible, then your keyword. That is the basic format of a listicle. I want to make sure I go over a few pro tips for the listicles before we move on to the next type of title. First, always use a number at the front of the blog title. Another tip is don't make your listicle too long. I know a lot of people want to do the one-up thing, and I have done the one-up thing based on things I've learned in the past. And sometimes they don't really make a difference. People like to feel like the listicle is, you can actually read it and it doesn't feel too intimidating. Now, one thing I can mention, when you're doing gift guides, no one wants a gift guide. Well, I'll say most people don't want 100 options to buy somebody or buy their father on Father's Day. Give them 13. 13 is a good number. It's not too many, but it's not too small. It gives them a lot of options. So you don't have to use 13, but don't say 101 things to get your father for Father's Day. That's a lot. For Father's Day, we love our fathers, but 101 ideas. And this is where you can make multiple types of lists related to Father's Day, because it could be for a new dad. It can be for grandfather or a brother who's a father. You can make a lot of lists based on that. Just keep them nice and sweet. Now, one of the tips I learned along the way is that odd numbers, for some reason, they work the best on listicles. According to a Medium article, it stated that just as odd numbers encourage clicks, even number lists have the opposite effect, as readers will assume that something has been added or omitted to keep the list to a round number of points. And that a lot of people struggle to process more than 9 items in a row on a listicle or anything at once. So that's just a tip for you to remember about your listicle. You don't have to go by the research from this article, but it's just a tip that I wanted to share with you regarding listicles. Now we move on to the how-to blog titles, and you have seen that as I was just talking about one of the keywords, how to start a blog. That is a very popular type of title to include for your blog post. A how-to article teaches the reader to accomplish a specific task. This task could be anything from learning a new skill to fine-tuning an ability to get a task done. The article should be definitive, resourceful, and straight to the point. Now, the main goal here is to educate the reader on why they can use this resource to complete a task on their own. So that's exactly what we're doing for a how-to post. We want to give you a task. It could be step by step, included within that how-to, but basically we're trying to get you from point A to point B and answer your questions. Now, some of the examples that we have here on Bramework include how to build links and partnerships with your blog, how to write faster, how to convert social media to sales for your business or your blog. And a few tips for a how-to article is to use the how-to at the front of your blog title to define the goal in the title, which is your keyword. Make sure you're combining the how-to with your keyword, and to add a bonus to the title if possible. Now, for this last tip, if you're going to add a bonus to the article, such as if you say something like how to create a killer blog post title plus 5 tips to increase your click-through rate, or CTR to keep it short. The only problem with that is that it's going to make your title a little bit longer. And one of the things I didn't mention is that Google will truncate your title, meaning it will cut it off somewhere between 65 to 70 characters. But if you have the Yoast plugin, it'll give you a little notification if your title is too long. In order for us to stand out, we would have to put something at the end. The only downside is that it might get cut off. So even if you put the extra plus X tips to increase your click-through rate, it'll get cut off from Google, so they may not see it. So you have to think about that when you are creating that title. Always think about what is the reader going to see. Now we're going to go to the next title format, and that is the question blog post title. And question articles are blogs that ask the question in the actual title with the intent of educating you through the article. The psychological impact is to encourage an emotional response to find out the answer for the reader and the question they have. Here are a few examples that we have. So those are basic examples of questions for your blog post. Now, here are some pro tips for when you're doing a question type of article. Your title does not have to be in a question format. You do not need to ask a yes or no question, because those are not effective. You want to ask a question and offer an enticing solution in the title. Now, the next blog post title format is mistakes, fixes, errors, and bugs. This is a title that's based on helping the reader avoid any kind of mishaps. It may be in the form of don't do this or watch out for that style, or it may be a simple help with blank your keyword. So one of the videos I did on YouTube that I created into a blog post was the biggest mistakes to avoid at Universal Studios Mardi Gras. It was the 10 biggest mistakes. So I made it into a listicle, but it also had mistakes to avoid at Universal Studios Mardi Gras. So those are an example for mistakes and errors and omissions, but I'm going to give you some tips on when you're creating titles for that. You want to make sure that you write as your reader speaks. So if they are saying a certain phrase for some type of error or mistake, you kind of want to include that in your title, because these titles are more so driving curiosity, because a lot of times people gravitate towards the more negative aspect and they want to make sure that they're not missing out on something. These type of formats for your title can be highly successful, but I wouldn't overly use them. And once you know how you want the title to be, you can create a guide around these fixes in the title. So what I normally do, this is kind of like a little trick I do for my blog at Theme Park Hipster and Florida Hipster, is that whenever I use a mistake title, it usually stems from an article that I've already done on the best tips for something. So if I did the best tips for visiting Los Angeles, I would have the 10 top tips for visiting Los Angeles, but then I would take that same article and it's kind of like I reverse it. And I say the 10 biggest mistakes to avoid in Los Angeles, California. And what I would do is I would take the essence of the tips post, put it in the mistakes. So every tip, so if I said tip 1, visit on Tuesdays. Mistake number 1 is not visiting on Tuesdays. You get what I'm saying? So I would reverse it in that manner. Now we're going to go to one of the more popular ones, which is the ultimate guide. Remember earlier in the academy, I talked about this is your mothership content, the cornerstone content, because it takes a lot of time. A blog article that is considered an ultimate guide, they are usually long form, highly resourceful articles. They are extremely educational with a long list of tools, tricks, sections, and tips that will aid in any task or schooling. It's basically like you're getting a mini course on that particular topic. They may also include technical information, cited references, contextual imagery, or step-by-step instructions as well. Here are some examples that we have here on Bramework, which is the ultimate blogging guide to build and sustain traffic, 41 benefits of blogging and why content is important, and the ultimate guide to content creation. Now, with this particular blog post title, these are the tips that I recommend for this one. Some people use the as the word towards the front of the title, but you have to kind of play with it. You don't have to, but you can play with it and test it out to see if you get a higher click-through rate with the ultimate guide, or take in just the ultimate guide and you can just put the year. I think having a year is more effective than having the, but you can play with it. So instead of the, I would put 2023 guide or 2024 ultimate guide to X, which would be your keyword. We love using words like ultimate, complete, definitive, or guide in that title because it makes the reader see that this is the cornerstone. This is where you get the best information. So that's when you're doing your epic blog post piece. You have other smaller articles, maybe a listicle, that all feed into the ultimate guide. You're all like linking them back and forth, but every relatable article will always link back to the ultimate guide because it is the one carrier of the topic. Now we have the keyword trigger, and keyword trigger blog post titles are article headlines that begin with your primary or secondary keyword for the topic of choice. If you begin your article title with the keyword, it has the ability to trigger search engines to index it for query. Here are some great examples. Solo dining, tips for eating alone at Disney World. So you can see that the main keyword title here is solo dining. Then you have the one up there that says lead generation, a beginner's guide to generating business leads the inbound way. So you can see that all of these examples, even the one that says quality traffic, how to get better leads from 3 key marketing channels. All of these titles have your primary keyword and your secondary keyword. This is another favorite of mine, if not my number 1 or number 2 way of creating a title if it makes sense to make it this way. I love having my keyword at the beginning and then creating a sentence, a short sentence afterwards that includes a secondary keyword. So I'm giving it like a 1-2 punch. You can also use this type of blog post titling for ultimate guides or thorough mothership content. I love this content. All right, so now we're gonna move to the next blog post title format, and that says increase, boost, grow. Those blog post titles, as you can see, are very enticing. And if you're building a blog business or trying to learn how to grow, you most likely have searched that type of content before. Consumers, business owners, and students will all search for ways to maximize their ability to grow, to do something better, to increase something. And that's why these blog post titles come in handy. Plus, they leave you curious, as an increase, boost, or grow style of blog post titles suggests that your article will help somebody optimize whatever topic they're trying to figure out. The article will also cover ways in which the reader can maximize their tools, their knowledge, and resources to grow. And here are some examples below. Increase your leads online starting today with these 5 tips. Boost your sales with CRM. 5 ways CRM can help you grow your business. Grow your customer base with 5 simple lead nurturing tips. I mean, that's curious. I'm like, yes, I want that. I want to increase my leads. What are you talking about? And you're going to give me 5 tips. You know, people love lists. So you add in your listicle with some powerful words like increase, grow. I love it. Now, the tips for this type of blog post title that I like to give people is that you want to use action words in front of your blog title. So action words are increase, grow, boost, those kind of things. And then you can use words like your to help your reader feel like you're speaking directly to them, that they have a connection with the content. And then you want to add in tips at the end of the title, plus 5 tips, or with these 5 tips. Add words like easy, simple, fast. Oh, people love that stuff. They want it easy, they want it simple, they want it today. And that's why that type of blog post works. Now, my next blog post example is verses. I do a lot of verses, well, not that much on my websites, but a lot of times the verses come from keyword searches that people are trying to figure out what's a slight difference between 2 things are kind of the same, but different at the same time. So in my case, it would be Universal Studios versus Disney World. A lot of people want to know what's the difference between the 2. So I don't just stick with that. I usually would make this more of a keyword front driven type of title with the verses. So the verses is the keyword. Universal Studios versus Disney World, that's the keyword. So that's going to go in the front. Then I'm going to put colon. Which one is better to visit in 2023? Or I might say which one is the best, question mark, something like that. But as you can see, the versus style blog titles are headlines that showcase an item and put it up against another item in a versus comparison. This type of article is designed to include all the facts, important information, and educational resources about each item in detail. So the title should reflect that. Now let's go through some examples. You got Wix versus WordPress. What's the best way to build a website in? And then X would be the year, because each year you want to change that year and update the article. Then you have PayPal versus Venmo. Put the colon. What's the difference? Question mark. Blog versus blog. Ultimate guide 2023, 2024, 2025. I mean, the options are endless. And some of the tips for this type of article is that you can start the blog title with the verses towards the beginning. That's so important. And then you want to incorporate a question in the verses title after you do the colon. You can also include something like the ultimate guide. It's just so many endless things you could do with this for this type of blog post title. So I hope you enjoyed this thorough deep dive into blog post titles, because it is just that important. Up next, I'm going to show you how to create a blog post title quickly with Bramework.